Last year, my soon-to-be ex-wife, 32, told me she wanted to go from being an L&D nurse to a specialist cancer nurse. She was returning to college, cutting back her hours at work, and aiming to be finished in 2 years. I was supportive, although a little surprised. She'd always seemed happy with her career and our life with our 2 kids, but I know some people can spontaneously get the urge for something more or different, so it wasn't a big deal. It did put some strain on me. Because she was so busy, I had to take on a lot more so she could do less. Previously, it had been 50-50, and it went to about 80-20 after she returned to education. About 4 months after she started back at college, I overheard her and her best friend talking. I wasn't due home for an hour, but had been able to leave early and had the kids with me. My ex's friend asked her how she could stay married and keep up the pretense. My ex said if she left me, she would never be able to make the career move. She wouldn't have the time to be a single parent and work and train for her specialty, and that I was able to support her through it as long as I didn't know she wanted out of our marriage and would leave as soon as she secured a new job. Her friend said it would all blow up in her face when I realized it, and she said she didn't care, and that she messed herself over by working even when we had the kids. Otherwise, she would have left and made me support them until she got a job. I waited until her friend was gone and the kids were in bed, and I told her the marriage was over and I was not going to be used until she got what she wanted. She told me I heard it wrong and that I was overreacting. She was ready for an argument, but I told her not where the kids could hear, and we waited until the kids were out of the house and we had it out with each other. She told me I was selfish and shouldn't punish her for changing her mind about us. She said if I was a good man, I'd encourage her to leave her job and offered to support her until she was ready to leave. In the end, I filed for divorce and I moved out of the home. I wanted to fight for the home since I'd lived there before we were together, but her name was on the deed, and I didn't want my kids to live in a conflict-ridden home. They were already going through a lot, and this divorce has been difficult for them. Their mom hates me, their grandparents and aunts and uncles hate me, and they're not allowed to talk about me around them. I've tried to hide how sad I am around them, but I fear they picked up on it. My ex is fighting the divorce, and her family is telling me I'm selfish and I should understand that a woman has the right to ensure her stability before ending a marriage. But she'd be stable without college. Her job was secure, and before this, she worked enough hours to support herself and the kids alone if she had to. She simply doesn't want to continue in that job. I don't feel like I owe her that support. Am I the idiot for ending my marriage after finding out my wife was planning to leave me, but only after she stayed long enough to do a career change? Not the idiot. She has a right to leave a marriage whenever she deems fit and for whatever reason. But so do you. I find it interesting that their problem is not trying to fix the marriage, but to make you her doormat now for her comfortable future. Not yours, hers. Would her family support her financially and childminding if she was already divorced? They want him to be loyal and pay her way because they don't have to foot a bill or babysit. Her friend said it would all blow up in her face when I realized it, and she said she didn't care. In her words, it was fine. She didn't care. Take her through the ringer. Her family's nuts for supporting her thinking. Here's a thought. Let her family support her financially for 2 years and let them pay for a housekeeper and potential babysitting so she can finish her education. She found out and is getting what she deserves. OP, get yourself into counselling and maybe with your kids, not sure about their ages. Don't give this witch a dime more than the divorce requires. Perhaps go for full custody since she's so busy with work and school, and get child support, and don't feel bad about it. My fiancé donated sperm to his brother and his now ex-wife because they were having issues conceiving naturally. The wife was checked by multiple doctors, but his brother refused to get checked because he didn't want people to think he was less of a man, so he wrote my fiancé into secretly donating. I wasn't comfortable with the idea, but my fiancé comes from a close-knit family, so I knew I wouldn't be able to convince him not to help his brother, so I didn't even try. His brother was supposed to raise the child as his own, but he couldn't cope with the fact that the baby wasn't biologically his, so he divorced his wife before she even gave birth. Ever since, my fiancé has been supporting her financially because his brother left her with nothing and she doesn't work. To an extent, I was okay with this because she's probably the biggest victim in all of this, and my fiancé's brother is a huge idiot for putting her in this situation. But it did make me uncomfortable when he was buying her gifts to cheer her up or going to doctor appointments with her. She's since given birth, and now my fiancé has decided he'll raise the baby with her because he doesn't want the child to grow up fatherless. Also, a big reason I think he wants to raise the baby is that his brother has made it seem like she was unfaithful to his family, so they're questioning whether the baby is part of their family or not, and my fiancé doesn't want his nephew to be shunned. I'm completely against this because it was bad enough that I had to accept another woman birthing his child before me, but I don't want to be a stepmother. The agreement was that my fiancé would only be an uncle to the baby, which is something I can cope with. Anything more is too much. I know this isn't an easy situation for the ex, and I sympathise with her, but this isn't my problem. She shouldn't have let her husband push her into something she wasn't comfortable with, and my fiancé had already done more than enough for her. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my fiancé play dad? Walk away. Let them become a family. It is his son and he has feelings. You will always be second now. He has a child. The deal has changed. It's better to leave now before he leaves you for her. Your fiancé is probably the legal father instead of a donor because the way they went about this is not the legal way, it doesn't sound like. As far as the court is concerned, there's no difference between his conception and that of a regular one. Unless there were clinics, doctors and legal teams involved that designated your fiancé a donor, legally he's just a regular father and will be required to do things like pay child support. Courts have already ruled on DIY donations, and they basically don't count as donations at all. Right now, my fiancé isn't the legal father, his brother is. This wasn't a DIY donation, it was done officially at a clinic, but my fiancé wants to be recognised as the legal father now. Oof. Leave. This is only going to get worse for you. OP, there are now 3 in this relationship, and you got the short end of the stick. Break up and move on. Your fiancé will not abandon the child or its mother. You are one too many. There's nothing to forbid or allow. You have not really a say in this mess. I can't believe your fiancé's brother roped him into this without considering the consequences. And what the heck is wrong with the brother who doesn't want to get checked because he didn't want to look unmanly? Just for crying out loud. This is so many levels of messed up. Honestly, girl, just walk away now when you still have your dignity. This family is nuts, and they're going to make you nuts too. The backstory is my brother-in-law, 35, lives a block away from my husband, John, 22, and myself, 22 female. We'll call the brother-in-law Billy. Billy is financially very stable. My husband John and I are not. Billy is John's half-sibling who was raised by his mother's side of the family. Billy's mom passed away 5 years ago and left him a substantial inheritance. Billy didn't have a lot of contact with his dad's side of the family. Once his mother passed away, he reached out to be closer to his dad and brother John. John and I have known each other since 4th grade. We started dating around 9th grade and got married last year. Billy has never liked that John and I are a couple. He feels like we should have waited to get married until we were more financially stable, finished college and dated other people. John and I think he's projecting since he's the child of a broken home. So Billy is constantly involving himself in our marriage. One way he does this is to stop by unannounced every day. He eats our food and tells me I'm a horrible wife and a terrible woman for choosing school over being a wife and mother. He also constantly questions why we have no children yet, because we can barely feed ourselves and are still in school. Anyway, you get the idea. Billy is not a nice person to us, but he is family. The reason I may be the idiot is before winter break I was up early and desperately searching for something to eat. As I said, we're starving college students. Billy knows we're struggling and does nothing to help us out, but he continues to show up for every meal. On this particular morning, I found a half jar of peanut butter and some old packages of instant oatmeal in the cabinet. Like clockwork, here comes Billy waddling in for a free meal. I was stressed, about to take my finals that day, and worried my husband and I wouldn't have enough nourishment to get through them, so I grabbed the jar of peanut butter and dumped 2 heaping spoonfuls into the pot. Billy is allergic to peanuts, and he freaks out, yelling that I'm trying to kill him. Now he has the whole family believing I hate him and tried to murder him on purpose. Even John said it would have been a rough day, but it would have been easier than dealing with this backlash. Am I the idiot here? Edit. I'm adding this edit to clarify that I did not try to feed Billy the oatmeal. I added it to the pot so he couldn't have any. That probably makes me an even bigger idiot. It was a moment of weakness. We live very close to each other in the country. Our doors are rarely locked. We're home. Everyone in our neighbourhood is family. We live in a Christian community. You are the idiot for not addressing verbally with Billy his freeloading off of you. If you don't want to feed him or can't, have a conversation. Putting his life at risk by serving him peanuts is an idiot thing to do, and it's so passive-aggressive. Use your words. Our doors are rarely locked, so maybe at least lock the damn doors. And if asked why, tell them you have a problem with rude vermin that keeps eating your food while you can barely feed yourself, but they have enough money to buy for themselves. And the new rule is that if someone's coming to visit you, they must bring something to eat. I'm sorry, I'm exasperated. You're complaining about being hungry while simultaneously doing nothing about it. Not today, Billy. Your new mantra. You'll need to grow a spine. Stop letting this idiot torment you both. Who gives a damn if he's a family? He adds nothing positive to your lives. If you're old enough to get married, you're old enough to stand up to that idiot. And if your husband won't back you up, you need to rethink him being your husband. The father of my siblings died 11 months ago. He'd been married to my mom since I was 4, but he never considered me his kid or treated me like his own. He told me himself when I was a child that he wasn't my father, and my daddy was some idiot who walked out on my mom when she told him she was pregnant with me. He said I'd need to track him down if I ever wanted a father, but I shouldn't expect him to step up. He wanted his own kids. My mom and he had 3 kids together. There's an 8 to 11 year age gap between me and them, and they always believed we were full siblings. My mom never corrected it, and their father never realized they believed it. When they were all tween and older, I sat them down and told them we had different fathers. I'd wanted to do it before, but they were kind of petulant kids, and I knew I'd be wasting my energy trying to convince them. Back when I explained it, I even showed them my birth certificate as proof. They didn't believe me and had all these excuses. When I pointed out the difference in how he treated us, they said that was just because I was the oldest. My mom died 5 years ago. Her husband became ill after her death, and my siblings and I had a big fight because I refused to contribute to or help with the care of their father. They hated me for it and said I was taking the difference in treatment out on him when it was known older kids have it differently. They told me if this was more about that he's not my dad, then I needed to get over it and accept that we're full siblings. Now that he's dead, they finally accepted it because he left me nothing in his will and left very strict instructions that I get nothing because I'm not his child. My siblings are in their 20s now and I'm in my 30s. I'm married and have kids. It really doesn't bother me that he left me nothing. I knew from a young age to expect nothing. I had accepted that if he lived longer than Mom, that would be it for me. I cared for him as much as he cared for me, and his death has made no difference to my life. Now, after all the crap my siblings have thrown at me, they want us to talk about it. Not only that, but the will. I refused. I told them I wasn't going to rehash all this again, and they were free to discuss it with each other, but since they hadn't apologized to me yet, I could assume I didn't feel bad about it, and I didn't need any more fighting with them. They accused me of never giving them a real chance to understand. I told them they'd been so quick to shut down the truth and accuse me of being a petty daughter and unable to accept the truth because I was bitter, that I didn't feel the need to give them more chances with this. I said I'd accepted long ago that the man would have been happier if I didn't exist and wasn't around. I didn't need to hold their hand through the truth that had nothing to do with them in the end. They think I should be more open. Maybe I should be. So I want to ask if I'm the idiot. Not the idiot. What about his will did they even want to talk about with you? The fact that you got nothing? Are they planning to offer you anything? If not, what's to discuss? Gotta say, your stepdad was a huge idiot here. Who treats a kid like that after willingly marrying their mother, and even straight up tells them so? Seems like the apples really didn't fall far from the tree here. Seems the petulant children became adults. Keep doing what you're doing. It's not your problem. They never grew up, they just got older. And your mom is an idiot for staying with him. Agreed, it sounds like your mom wasn't pretty great either. OP, they're old enough to start off with an apology if they want to initiate a talk with you. No apologies means they're still not acknowledging or taking accountability for how they reacted or acted when you told them the truth countless times. The fact that they only want to talk about it now that the will is out shows that their intentions are not that innocent. To put it lightly, it feels like the apple, after all, doesn't fall far from the tree. I gave my niece a decent sum of money for her wedding. This was 100% a gift on my part and I've not regretted it. But my brother and sister-in-law want me to demand the money back from her for upsetting them. Personally, I think their reaction is extreme, but they're angry and their feelings are hurt, so maybe I'm being dismissive. The issue, if you can even call it that, is the wording used on the save the dates my niece and her future husband sent out. They gave their own name and listed the parents, but my niece listed my sister-in-law as my brother's wife instead of a parent. It's handled like this. The groom's parents are listed as parents of the groom, names, while my brother and sister-in-law are listed as father of the bride, name, plus his wife, name. She also has a section stating she's the daughter of the late, her mom's name. My brother and sister-in-law feel like this is a big insult and demeaning of sister-in-law's role because she met my niece and her siblings when they were all under tween age, and she's been a part of raising them. To be listed as the wife instead of as the parent has led to hurt feelings. While my brother is angry that his wife is just his wife and his late wife is mentioned as her mother, he feels this overlooks the role sister-in-law played. My niece doesn't regret her choice of words for the save the dates, and because they had multiple discussions after they were sent out and she hasn't apologised, my brother and sister-in-law believe it's wrong for me to fund any part of the insult. When I refused to demand the money back, and I refused to turn against my niece like they wanted, they turned on me. They said I should be defending sister-in-law who raised my niece and the others. They said this decision has formed a crack in the blended family they built, and they fear all the other kids, including sister-in-law's bio kids from her late husband, will follow suit. They told me it should bother me and I should want better for my extended family, and they asked how I would feel if any of my children did this to me. I don't really think I'm wrong, but perhaps I'm just too close to the situation to know. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You earn being a mom. You don't marry into it, and being deceased does not erase you from history. It's a privilege to be invited to the event at all. It's not a right. Stick to your guns. They are being ridiculous. Tell them to handle their business without dragging you in. Also, I don't think this situation formed the crack. The crack was already there. It's also not like sister-in-law was omitted or added as an afterthought in an ant print besides an asterisk at the bottom of the card. She mentioned them currently and the daughter of her mother. None of these are lies and none of them should have been offensive. I think it's exponentially more insulting for sister-in-law to create drama where there shouldn't be any. Will she now wear white to the wedding since it's all about her, or black to mourn the loss of her common sense? The woman has a mother despite how long you've been in her life.